What's up, everybody? Hey, everybody in chat. Thanks for hanging out. I gotta fix my overlay here real quick. Sorry about that. We're playing some Breachstorm today, and different than the other games of Breachstorm that we streamed, I'm actually not gonna be playing this one. This is between two players in our. This is Rubis and Marin from our. Fix this. From the Breachstorm Discord community. So, and they're gonna be playing, and I'm gonna do a little commentary. Hopefully, we can make this kind of a. I guess a bit of a learning tutorial game, since a lot of people have said that they like watching the videos, but they don't necessarily understand the mechanics of Breachstorm because they're a little unique. So we're going to be, I think, talking about a little bit base level, some of the mechanics and exactly how the game works. So hopefully that'll be fun to watch for everyone. And worst case scenario, we can just hang out and have a good time in the chat room. So I'm psyched. Get rid of these tools here. We don't need those.
Oh god, I deleted something.
Thanks, everybody in the chat room for coming and joining. I really appreciate it. But let's fix some audio here. Yeah. Players are just getting their teams together right now and setting up. They'll be setting up terrain momentarily. Breachstorm does have... It has a player-generated mission and terrain system. So basically, whenever you build your list in Breachstorm, you pick 2 objectives out of a pool of 8 currently. There's 2 categories of 4. One is attack and one is defense. And each game, basically the first turn roll-off determines who's the attacker and who's the defender, and you'll use your corresponding objectives that you've picked. So it's one of the important parts of the strategy is building your army around the objectives that you're trying to complete. And it makes it a little bit more thematic. If your army is trying to do some electronic warfare, something a little bit... a little bit sneakier, they're not necessarily going to be, sort of trying to go in guns blazing, and you can build a list that's designed around certain synergies and certain missions, that's designed around completing those missions. So it's a pretty cool system. Also, before the game starts, the players will go back and forth, and there's a pool of terrain that they're going to deploy on the table. We just have 2D templates in TTS right now. I like to put 3D stuff on top of them. We'll see if they want to do that, but I think people usually just use the 2D templates for now. But we do in real life games, we do have at least we have sort of 2D studio terrain sets that we use that are based on the 2D templates. And what the easy way to play with it is that you can place the templates out when you're setting up terrain, and then you just get to put the terrain features on top of them to sort of beautify it. But that means that you get kind of the best of both worlds. 2D terrain is very functional from a gameplay standpoint, but the 3D terrain looks better. So if you have the areas of the table demarcated out where the terrain is, then you get the best of both worlds, because you can remove the terrain if you ever need it to move or measure or whatever, and then just put it back on when you're done, and it still looks pretty good. So I think it's like my favorite system for terrain. War Machine does something similar, but a lot of times they just use 2D terrain. They don't even put 3D stuff on it, and that's kind of like... I mean, why are you playing a miniatures game if you're not going to put terrain on the table? And 40K obviously is moving kind of in that direction. With a lot of their new mechanics are 2D terrain oriented. Things like obscuring, where terrain will block line of sight if your line of sight traces over it, even if the terrain itself isn't there, if it's just the base or something. That's kind of a 2D terrain style mechanic. And... So I'm glad to see more games kind of picking it up, because I do think that it makes gameplay a little bit better. But the players are going to go ahead and, after they determine first or second and finish setting up their teams, they're going to be placing those terrain templates on the table. And so an additional part of the strategy is trying to set up the table in such a way that it's conducive to not only your game plan. Down here we have the Volucrid host. They're very melee-centric. They're just going to try to Zerg rush across the table and deal a bunch of damage in melee. Versus the Homeworld Confederacy, they're much more ranged superiority, sort of keyed. And so they're going to try to open lines of fire and get shots off. So we're going to see the Volucrid player try to put a lot of terrain in the center of the table that's line of sight blocking. And the Homeworld player is going to try to put terrain in that area that might not be line of sight blocking or be less line of sight blocking, and try to open up those areas so you couldn't put like a big building in there. It also helps to try to make your opponents, what do you call it? Their strategy a little bit, or their mission a little bit more difficult to complete. So, in some situations you're going to have like a an objective marker or something like that, and you can try to put terrain intervening so it's difficult for your opponent to contest it, or you can make it difficult for your models to move between objective markers. So there's a lot of thought that goes into the pregame phase of Breachstorm, and a lot of times it's not like sort of the number one determinant of victory, but it helps a ton if you're good at setting up terrain. I want just as a reiteration for everybody in the chat, thanks everybody who just popped in for joining. I appreciate you hanging out. We're going to be hanging out today and watching a game of Breachstorm, and I'm going to be trying to go through some of the core mechanics and sort of illuminate things for everyone. But if anybody has any questions or comments, absolutely go ahead and throw those up there, and I'll try to address them. That's going to be the goal for today. I think we're going to be doing a little bit of commentary, kind of. Listen in with the players here real quick, see where they're at.
Their weird, set explosive can concuss on a crit.
Hey, can you guys give me, whenever you're set up, can you give me a rundown of the list that you're playing?
Yeah. I am all set up. Or did you want or do you want to wait until
we should wait. We should wait.
Are you about to do attacker, defender, and stuff?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, I am. I'm ready to go. I don't know if.
I'm not ready to go.
Oh,
no. No problem. Take your time.
Trevor, can you undelete depositor sacks? I accidentally deleted it in controls. That didn't work.
Can I undelete it? I don't think I can undelete it, but I can probably bring in a new one.
Your objects or something somewhere. Actually, no, Kevin would shoot.
No, I think we should be able to grab a new sack of cards. Give me 1 sec. I just need to bring my menus back. Expand. It would be in here. Should be in there. That's a refreshed upgrade card sack.
Thank you.
And just for future reference, if you have the mod subscribed, all you have to do is go into your games menu at the top and click the little drop down next to the Breachstorm mod and click expand, and you can see all of the different components that are in it, and you can spawn them individually. So if you ever need to bring something in from another mod and you don't want to load the whole mod, you can just do that. That's your tabletop simulator PSA for the day. Everyone.
I don't see. You put a new upgrade card thing in, but
it's on your left side of the board, right by the counters.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so it looks like we're just gonna be finishing off the teams here real quick before we get started. Usually we like to, I think almost in every game so far I think we played, we usually play on Sundays, and you can see I usually stream the games that I play, but we often play like brand new lists, and we're very highly experimental with all of the different combos in the game. So a lot of times we'll just be building our list before the game starts. Fortunately, Breachstorm lists are not that difficult to build, so it doesn't take too long typically. Basically, we play at a points level, just like a lot of other miniature games. We call it requisition, and it's you have 100 requisition points to spend. It's just the cost value on each of your cards added up. Then each of these slots here are upgrade slots, kind of a la Fantasy Flight game, kind of like X-Wing or Armada or something like that. And you can fill them with upgrade cards. So a lot of the upgrade cards will have multiple levels that you can equip them to. So, this one, Resilient, for example, the level 1 allows you to heal 2 damage at the end of each round, and the level 2 allows you to tap it to reduce the damage that you take from an attack. And for each of those levels that you take, it requires an additional upgrade slot. So for this Howler to be upgrading this, or to be taking Resilient at level 2, it's going to have to sack 2 of these in order to do that. So it's only going to have 1 left over. And then each of the levels have a cost value associated with them. So this guy's 16 points. He's got a 3-point upgraded. I assume we're at level 2 right now. A 3-point upgrade and a 2-point upgrade. So he's going to be coming in at 21 total points out of 100. And then you just do that and you build your whole list. If you have points left over, it is still useful to have leftover points. They do a couple different things. They if you bid points lower than your opponent before the game starts, then you get to choose who's attacker and defender. So if you build your team to less than 100, typically you get to pick. Honestly, attacker defender, they're relatively pretty balanced. So most lists, unless they are really keyed into one or the other, don't really. Bidding is not really a big part of the metagame. There are a couple lists that really benefit from being one role or the other, but not many of them. The other thing you can do is you can buy this resource. I guess it's we have it up in the overlay here, called asset points. And those are, if you're coming from 40k, they're basically the equivalent of command points. They let you reroll dice and use some special abilities. Your mission actually gives you some tactical assets, which are what you spend those on, that you can use during the game, and you unlock those with asset points. So two requisition points spent before the game gives you 1 asset point. You can also call them in with your field officers, and a lot of units will generate them when they die. So you, as your team gets killed, you end up generating more asset points.
I don't usually play hold position when I play defense.
Yeah, but it's really good with the host, so...
That's what I'm saying. When I play host, I don't usually play it. But this list is good for it.
If you're just joining us...
I'm at 99 points, so we don't really need to roll.
Yeah, exactly. 100.
Okay, so it looks like Volycard actually did bid 1 point to to choose attacker defender, and is choosing to defend.
I am playing Breakthrough.
Oh, interesting. Breakthrough. Yikes. This might be rough for Homeworld, to be honest. This is a pretty tough matchup going in.
Let's set those up.
Now, Volycard Host is a faction that generally benefits from defending. One of their mechanics basically, they're very melee oriented, so they usually want to force their opponent to come into them, and the defensive objectives are really conducive to that. Hold position is one of them. Basically, a zone will be placed around the center of the table, and at the end of each round, if the defender has more models, or equal or more models than the attacker inside the zone, then they'll score a victory point. The goal of the game is to get to 3 victory points at the end of any round and have more than your opponent. So if the hosts are able to do that 3 times and stop their opponent from scoring 1 time, then they'll win. Obviously, host is also very high model count. So usually the mean team size in this game is about 7 or 8 models, and hosts can bring 10 or 12 really commonly. So they have a lot of really garbage units that they can throw into that zone to ensure that they hold it every turn. So hosts typically want to defend. The other thing that they have that makes them a little bit better on defense is that a lot of their infantry can't interact with objectives that need you to interact with them. So there are things like computer terminals and intelligence packages and things like that require you to be sort of a relatively average intelligence to work with them. And unfortunately, these little host critters, these little zerglings, basically are too dumb to be able to know how to do that. So a lot of times, host has problems with interacting with those, and a lot of the attack missions require those. So that's one of the other reasons that host typically likes to play a defensive game. Their field officers, in this case we have these Howlers, can all interact, just fine. But one of the ways hosts have been designed is that their officers are extremely valuable. They basically function like an insect hive, so you need the queen around to tell everybody what to do. So if the officers get killed, the rest of the critters can sort of fall apart and not really do anything. So you really want to keep your officers safe until they absolutely need to be up in the thick of it. So throwing them up there to complete objectives can be a little bit dangerous sometimes. So it does make a lot of sense. If any faction were to bid to go to pick a role, it would probably be Value Crit Host. Homeworld Confederacy typically tends to be okay on defense because they're very range centric. So they want your opponent to sort of come at them, and they want to be able to stand still. But they also have a lot of mobility options. And unlike Host, their entire team can interact with objectives, so they have a lot easier time. So here are the mission objectives going down. The Homeworld player has picked Breakthrough for their team. I think the idea was to play a very aggressive Homeworld team. And obviously those objectives are picked at the list creation stage, so you don't know what your opponent's faction is or what objective that they've picked before you pick what your team's trying to do. Breakthrough similarly puts a zone on the table, but it ends up in your opponent's deployment zone. And your goal is to move into that zone, kill everyone inside it, and get... Oh, I apologize, everyone. I have a Facebook tab open like a plebeian. But the goal is to get into that zone and kill everyone inside and then interact with it. The first time they do that, they're going to score 2 victory points. Generally, you can only score 1 victory point around, but Breakthrough gives you a little bit of a leg up on the first time you score it because it's so difficult to do. Typically, you'll want to set up somewhere around the midpoint of the table so that on turn 1, so that turn 2 you can make a really big, powerful sort of hammer blow into it, kill everyone inside, and then score it for 2 victory points. Then round 3, if you can deal enough damage to your opponent, you can score it for the last time to get the 3rd point to win the game. It's obviously it's a hyper aggressive mission. It's not often picked for Homeworld Confederacy because it's so aggressive. This one was actually designed around melee centric factions like Value Crit Host and Zrenthrar Prides. We wanted them to have an attack objective that was like really based around playing a really aggressive game style. It works pretty well for Value Crit Host because they have a lot of... I'm going to go ahead and lock these for the players so we're not bumping them around. Because they have a lot of effects that can move enemy models around. So they have concussive effects and impact attacks that can push people out of zones, which makes it a little bit easier to score. So they don't have to necessarily kill everyone, which is good. But they do probably need to get a field officer up there to score it, which is a little bit dangerous sometimes. Although the field officers are relatively fast, so that's good. But this Homeworld team actually looks like it is relatively aggressive. So an aggressive pick for an attack objective makes a lot of sense. This guy here is... Oh, okay. So this guy is a rifleman. These two are proxying in for breachers. We have a breacher profile on in the card pack, but unfortunately we don't have a breacher miniature yet. And the standee... I think there's a standee up on the website, but the standee has not been uploaded onto the TTS mod yet, so we're proxying right now. And it looks like this player has put their upgrades just into their tooltip, which is good. They both have Gunslinger level 2. So that's going to allow them, they can fire while they're in melee, they can shoot their guns while they're engaged, and level 2 means that after they hit someone with a gunshot, they can exhaust it to move. So they can be very aggressive, potentially. That's usually an upgrade for Bastien. Yeah, he also has Gunslinger level 2. Honestly, everyone with a really good gun kind of wants Gunslinger level 2. Lukas has Sharpshooter. This is a very upgrade-heavy list. Tape Boy is a Breachstorm mod available through the TTS Workshop. Yep, absolutely. It is, I think... Actually, I guess I can just look. I'll just take a look at it. Oops, we have to bring our top menu back. It is called... It's in here. I think it's called Breachstorm Fan Mod. Yeah, Breachstorm Fan Mod. So just go look for that. Look up that, and you can download it. It's I will say it's a little bit low tech, but it works for our purposes. Basically, it just has all of the components in bags, and you can just spawn them and play the game. It doesn't have any super fancy scripting or anything. So if you're used to that in TTS, we don't have any of that going on, but at least not yet. but it does have all the components in it, so at the very least you can play. I think there's a couple things that I would do. Having scripting in the models to be able to mark their damage and stuff is usually pretty good, and I think also having the terrain tell you when it's legally placed would be nice, but that's a little bit beyond my capabilities, unfortunately, so I'm not really here to... I unfortunately can't really do that very well. As long as the rules are fun, that's all that matters. Yeah, that's the goal. Look, so we are at terrain placement now, so the players have set up their missions, and we are putting down the terrain templates. So these basically we have any of these big rectangles. So this guy, and this guy up top are obstructions. So they are big, chunky buildings that you can't see or move through. They do give you cover, so if you're shooting over top, if you are not base to base with it, then you're obscured, so any attacks against you get -1 accuracy. And if you are base to base, so you're upright against it and you're touching it, then if an attack against you will have to drop the highest dice that it rolls, which is like a little bit more of a detrimental effect than -1 accuracy. Once the players get stuck in, we'll talk about the attack mechanics a little bit, because they're a little unique, I think, from other miniature games, but the system works pretty well once you get the hang of it. Looking at it from the outside in, it's a kind of it looks a little funky, but once you know what's going on, it's actually pretty easy. I think I'm gonna widget these players. Oh no, what happened to my music? Come back, music. I'm going to go ahead and widget the players' templates into the... Oops. Their scenario templates, I think. Just so that they don't have a vertical shape. Also, I didn't tell the players are doing this, so they're gonna get surprised. All right, that looks better to me. That way, the zones don't have any verticality to them, so that your models like don't tip over when you're trying to measure on them. I hope they also remember to lock the terrain so that it doesn't move around. So the terrain placement phase of the game is actually, I think it's one of my most fun. There's such a mind game to it. Because you go back and forth placing terrain, and you can zone out where your opponents can place the templates, you can make there's many levels to it. You can try to just fool your opponent into placing terrain that you want to be put somewhere or something like that. It's pretty fun. We can hear everybody laughing in the background. Now I mentioned the obstructions. They're basically big buildings that will block your line of sight and your attacks. The amorphous terrain is sort of area terrain. This obscuring terrain you can move freely through. So this is kind of forested area here. That doesn't impede your movement at all. You can go right through it, but it does block line of sight passing directly through it. So you can see people who are inside it or touching it, but you cannot see people who are on the other side. It will block line of sight to them. In addition, if you're inside it, you're also obscured from attacks, so they get -1 accuracy against you. So it's a little bit, sort of two folds of protection. Either you can be outside and hidden, or inside and obscured. And a lot of times you'll see people sort of place models up against it, because models do also block line of sight, so you can block a lot of real estate trying to get lines of sight in, and you can use it to kind of protect your officers and things like that. The other terrain here, this pool of water, is difficult terrain, and that reduces the movement of any move that goes through it by 1 inch. So if it slows you down a little bit, you can usually get through it in 1 or 2 moves, but it does make it a little bit more difficult. I just realized I have my hood on right now, and I think it might be causing some feedback in my microphone. So if anybody was getting that, I do apologize. Tape Boy, how much terrain does each player get? Is it built into the list, or is there a pool that's available to both players? Yeah, so there's a standardized pool that every game uses. It's the 2 of these 4x6 inch obstructions, 1 of this big 5x7 inch obstruction, one template of each of the area terrain here, the difficult and the obscuring terrain, and then 2 of these long walls and 2 of these little square bits. And so far, every game has used that. We don't have any sort of terrain substitutions in there. So only the mission is player selected, and then the terrain is player placed. But the pool is always standard. And this terrain setup actually looks, it feels to me like it's going to be a little favorable for the host player. And the reason for that is all of this line of sight blocking in the center of the table, especially this big this obstruction and this forest. The combination of those two together, I think, should give a lot of really good sort of shadow areas on the table that the host player will be able to put their field officers, especially, and not really take too much damage from them. That said, like we mentioned before, the homeworld player is also playing. He's playing attack, and he's trying to get to this zone right here. So having some line of sight blocking in the center isn't the worst thing for the homeworld player, since they're going to be pushing up that area, that direction pretty hard. The downside is that host is their damage output sort of increases exponentially as you get closer to them, so sort of going face directly into a Volcrid host team can sometimes be disastrous for you. Are there any stipulations regarding the terrain placement? Yeah. So the rules are you can't have it overlapping any of the objective zones, so you can't just put them on top to block off where your opponent can go to score the mission. You also can't have them within 2 inches of any other terrain, so as you can see, the players have measured that out. There's kind of a 2-inch bubble around them. And you can't have it within 6 inches of any table edge. So that's just to stop people from just cornering it. They're like, I don't want to deal with this piece of terrain, so we'll just put it back here. And you can't do that. Sometimes you get to a situation where if the terrain is placed in a particular way, you can actually make it impossible to legally place a template. And in that case, those templates are discarded. That's happened a couple times, I think, on the games that I've streamed so far. And that's really funny when it happens because it's pretty rare. But it is sort of, depending on the situation, depending on the matchup, it can be kind of a high terrain game. I think this one, the terrain's going to play a pretty big role, especially for this host. Keeping them safe from the big guns on the homeworld side of the table, especially Lukas here. He has a big marksman rifle. He's like a really powerful ranged threat. And also the support gunner. Those both have range 12 guns, which is very long in Breachstorm. Whereas the rest of them are shotguns that are only 8 inches. But keeping these field officers safe from those guys is going to be a big deal. Now, another benefit that the host has in this matchup is that they have a lot of idiots that they can throw onto the zone and to contest it and make it difficult for the homeworld player to get up and score points on it. That said, we do have 2 breachers on the homeworld side of the table. And the breachers in Bastien, their shotguns all move enemies when they hit them with them. The breachers also have breaching charges that are, I have to remember the name of the actual attack. I think it's like an automated breaching charge, I think, or automated breaching drone, maybe ABD. But they actually place a token that moves itself, and then they can, as an action, set it off. And potentially that can, depending on the hit level that you hit with it, it can throw enemies around and throw them out of zones.
Just hope it works out.
So once the terrain phase of the game is set up, you go through deployment. The attacker always places all their models first, so there's no back and forth deployment or anything like that. So they're just going to place everything, not knowing where the defender's going to go. The attacker automatically gets the first activation on the first turn, so usually they can place pretty aggressively and then kind of repair their positioning immediately afterwards. But sometimes it is a pretty big benefit for the defending player to know where the attacker is gonna be. But then the defender will put all their models down, and then after that, the attacker will just get the first activation.
Okay.
Ready
So I
to.
think we're ready for those rundowns, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Show me what you got.
All right. So I am going to be running the Homeworld Confederacy here. My two field officers are Johann Lukas, who is over here on my left. He's running with Sharpshooter 2, no other upgrades. The other one is Major Bastien, who's on my right. He's running with Gunslinger 2 and no other upgrades. I have only one standard rifleman. He's the red guy here. His name is Jenkins because he's going to die. We have a sport gunner. He has trace lock ammunition. And then I have two breachers. We've got Winston on my left over here and Rodriguez on my right. They're both also rocking Gunslinger 2, which means that when my people with shotguns hit things, once a turn they can move.
Sick.
Sweet.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
I am running Volkert Host. I'm running a double Howler list with both of them running Resilient 2 and Depositor Sacks. I'm running 3 Fireflies who are all running Nutrient Reserve Sacks. I'm running 2 Larva, and then I'm running 5 Crawlers, and they're all running Depositor Sacks. So really heavy upgrade list.
We are sacked up here.
Super stacked up. Seven Depositor Sacks.
Oh my
Really
God.
funny on account of the fact that it's almost impossible to get much use out of it against this list that I've got here.
That's fine.
So besides the, does the rifleman have any upgrade? No. So besides the
Right.
larva and the rifleman, every model in the game is upgraded, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Oh boy. That's sick.
Totally the normal way this game is played.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to see what would happen if you put upgrades on all the buggy boys.
Fair enough.
So
Yeah,
we'll
I
see.
mean you gotta when you don't have any spitters to put out those infestation tokens.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the Fireflies having the nutrient reserve sacks instead of the larva, instead of
The crawlers.
crawlers.
Yeah. I think that'll be good. All right. Attacker goes first.
Attacker does in fact go first.
Good luck, guys.
At me.
Oh, thanks. All right. Sebastian is going to be the first guy.
All right, so there we've got a little bit of a rundown of the lists. We were joking a little bit there about how every model is upgraded. That's usually pretty rare in Breachstorm because upgrades typically tend to be a little bit expensive. An average sort of infantry model will cost 9 or 10 points, and out of 100 points, it means you only get 10 of those. So adding a 2-point upgrade to them increases their cost by 20, as much as 20%. So usually the upgrades are sort of used sparingly in some very unique or very specific situations if you're trying to set up a combo or something. So just putting them everywhere is an interesting approach. It can be very good, especially when you your models start sort of acting or doing a lot of damage, obviously, because they have a lot of extra efficiency. Tape-wise, is each model its own unit? Yeah, so it works very differently than... If your experience is in 40k, it works very differently than 40k. Essentially, the best way to think of it is that your whole team is sort of like a unit. As it were in 40k. Each model acts independently, so they don't go together. But you have models called field officers. So on the side of the table of the homeworld player, the Bastien here and Lukas are both field officers. And the way that the core engine of the game works is that the players go back and forth activating first their field officers and then their infantry. However, field officers generate themselves these little tokens here, these blue tokens called order tokens, and they can spend those to order infantry to act at the same time that they do. So typically with an officer going, you can go with an officer and he'll usually go with like one or a couple infantry models, and they'll kind of act as a little bit of a unit together. Then your opponent will do the same thing, so they'll activate a couple models, and then you'll go back and you'll activate the rest of your team, is typically how the turns play out. Now, there are some situations in which you want to hold the activation of your infantry for later in the turn. For example, this mission here, hold position, scores at the end of the turn. If the defending player has more models in it than the attacker, or equal or more models. So both players are incentivized to hold infantry to go at the end and then run them into the zone to stop that scoring from happening. So there probably will be situations like that in this game that we see. Is there any model coherency to speak of? Yeah, there is a little bit. Your field officers have a command radius. So we can see Bastien. He has got a big one. He's a major. He knows what he's doing. He has a command radius of 10 inches. That means he can only issue orders to infantry that are within 10 inches of him. The way it works, though, is you essentially interrupt your normal activation to issue orders. So an officer could potentially, if they had infantry outside of their command radius, they could move over to broadcast their radius somewhere else to issue an order. Then, after that infantry has gone, they can move back and issue an order to somebody else. Essentially, the core strategy of the game is sequencing each of your model's activations in the most efficient way. And we can see we're using these little green tokens here. These are action tokens. Your units will generate those when they activate, and those are what they spend to do stuff. And then once that model spends all of their activation tokens, or their action tokens, excuse me, they're done with their activation, and you move, if they're infantry, you move back to the field officer that activated them to do the rest of their actions, or if that's your last model to go with, then you'll just pass to your opponent. Each of your actions, there's no order in which you have to perform each of your actions. So it looks like we're going to be trying to, oh man, are we trying to be scoring the zone immediately? That would be a big deal. One of the things that you have to sort of pay attention fighting against a breakthrough opponent is that you want to be, you want to ensure that your opponent can't get the 2-point score on turn 1, because then they're potentially threatening a victory on turn 2, because the goal is to get to 3 points, and the first time you score this zone gets you 2, and the second time gets you 1, so that would get them to 3 immediately. So one thing you can do, for example, against a team like this that has a lot of weapons that push models, you can stack your models up on top of each other. So the Volucard player potentially could put like larvae, which are relatively difficult to kill, inside the zone, and then put models behind them, something like this. Then none of those breachers can't shoot them out of the zone because they would bump up against the model behind them. You can also do that with terrain, like you can anchor your models on terrain so that they're difficult to push out of the zone.
There we go. Exactly 8 inches. That's what we're talking about. Alright, so he has a slightly higher accuracy on his gun because he's a field officer. He also automatically knocks back. Okay, and let's just make sure I didn't make it.
So this is Major Bastien attacking here. This is one of the homeworld field officers. So he's got a shotgun that he's attacking with. And while we're going through the sequence, we'll go ahead and talk about the combat mechanic. So all of the weapons in the game, we'll take a look at Bastien's card. I think I'm actually going to copy pasta it. Don't tell the players. So looking at Bastien's card here, we can see that all of your weapons have an accuracy, which is this number right here. And that is when you're attacking the number of dice. Oh, I forgot how much I hate this track. Let's skip the track here. Get out of here. That is the number of dice that you roll when you're making an attack using that weapon. So as we just did, the homeworld player, when he's attacking, he'll roll 4 dice for his attack roll. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Of those, and a lot of times you're going to get some bonuses, especially in Homeworld Confederacy. They love stacking a bunch of bonuses on each other to give a bunch of benefits to hit and extra dice you get to roll. Regardless of how many dice you're rolling, you get to pick 3. So typically you want to pick the higher ones. Sometimes there's situations in which you don't want to trigger abilities and stuff, and you don't want to kill your opponent. Or there are some models that have attacks that do better the lower you roll. So in those cases, you want to pick lower dice. But regardless of how many dice you roll, you pick 3 of them to use for your result. So we've picked the 3 4s here. That gives the roll a total of 12 for its attack value. And you take that and you compare it to the defense or evade of the target, which is how hard they are to hit. That's this number right here. So shooting at most of these volley crit guys, they are evade 6. So if we have a total of 12 in the 3 dice that we've picked, we'll subtract 6 from that and get a result of a 6. And you can take a look at that on your card. That tells you how much damage you've actually done. So in this case, he's attacking with his DGE G8P combat shotgun. That is going to be in a 6 to hit will get him into this moderate category, the 6+ category here, which is going to deal 5 damage to the target. And then this icon means it pushes it back 2 inches. So it looks like we are threatening a double score here. Uh-oh. This could be a relatively quick game if the homeworld player is able to convert this. This could be rough. That means that basically the host player has to kind of reorient their goal almost entirely into preventing this from being scored on turn 2. Fortunately, they can do that pretty easily because both of these breachers should die this turn to all of the crawlers and stuff running around over here. If they're able to kill Bastien as well, it could be looking a little bit dicey for the homeworld player. One of the downsides, obviously, of this plan for homeworld is that they have to push so far forward and so aggressively forward that they end up trading a lot of models for those victory points.
Deploy a explosive.
Okay.
So I take a small-sized aura, which should be, I guess, maybe it's in this thing. Aha, yes. Place it in base to base, and then I can move it up to 6 inches. Don't want to move it particularly far. I just want to be like, enter this zone at your own peril.
Yeah, so that's the MTAC breachers.
And that sticks around until
Breaching charge ability that I mentioned a little bit before.
Action.
That it lets them set that charge. It's a little drone that automatically runs to wherever they want to, 6 inches away. And then as a second action, they can detonate it. So it's less efficient than just making an AoE attack, but you can sit it on the, just on the ground there for a while, and you won't need to perform that action again if you want to detonate that. You'll have to just do the detonate action. And either breacher can detonate this, assuming they survive this coming turn. The breachers are relatively tanky. They have a lot of hit points. They're supposed to be up-armored from the regular homeworld infantry. But unfortunately, they don't really have any other defensive buffs. We can see here that the homeworld player is placing these concentrate fire tokens onto the larva that he's shooting. This is each faction kind of has a unique mechanic that's unique to them, and the concentrate fire mechanic is the homeworld confederacy's one that gives each of these tokens will give any attackers that target that model for the remainder of this round an additional accuracy for each token that they have on them. So looks like we've spread around a lot of attacks. We haven't killed anybody yet. Yeah, it looks like we're just marking the hit points in there. Tooltip. We haven't killed anybody yet, but we're spreading the tokens around quite a bit so that any subsequent attacks this round will take those guys out pretty easily. And each of those attacks, tokens will give an additional accuracy to any of those attacks. So like we mentioned before, Homeworld likes to stack a bunch of accuracy on top of each other. So for example, Bastien, if he went to shoot at this larva, now that it has all of these tokens on it, he would roll 6 dice instead of 4. He still only gets to pick 3 to use for his result, but the chances of rolling really high are way better on 6 dice drop the 3 lowest. So you can see there is a cap to how high you can roll. You can never roll higher than 3 6s, but on the flip side, you can sort of get kind of very highly reliable attacks very quickly with mechanics like that. Bastien also, for an action, he can project an aura around himself to give +1 accuracy to people. And Lukas can give accuracy to people that he orders during the turn with one of his orders. So all of the homeworld officers are very sort of buff oriented, they really want to be making their infantry more accurate. Now, on the flip side, the volley crit hosts is kind of unique mechanic. It gives them a little bit of counterplay to effects that stack tokens on them, which is called consume, whereas they just eat each other for energy. So basically, at any time during their activation, they can just pick a friendly model within 2 inches and just kill it and give themselves a bunch of tokens they can use to make attacks. If you are a larva, it also heals you when you eat them. The larvae also have the ability to eat enemies and to fatten themselves up so that they are more nutritious. And so as they deal damage to people, they're going to place fury tokens on themselves. And then when they get eaten, they're going to allocate all of those tokens to whoever ate them. So one of the things that you can do is you can actually kind of store resources in a host army and save them up for later. This is Renthar Pride's one of the other factions in the game does this pretty well, but host can do it a little bit less. They have an upgrade, nutrient reserve sacks, which all the Volunteer player has given to all of his fireflies here, these little orange guys. And that allows them, when they get fury tokens, to save them, and then when they die, or when they're consumed, they can donate all of them to whoever eats them. So these fireflies can be eating the larva for the entirety of the early game and generate a bunch of fury, and then that fury is not lost over time, and they're just going to be able to as soon as they die, they can give it to somebody else. So we're going to see. Well, let's. I'm going to listen into the host player's activation right here, so we kind of run through how an activation works. Host activations tend to be very complex, so we're going to see how well he navigates it. Let me know also if the audio mixing sounds good.
Fury tokens.
If you have any trouble hearing or anything's too loud, please let me know. So that's the hunter, the Howler here, whose name is Hunter. We've named them. Has ordered he's performed a move action himself to get him over into this area. He's gone ahead and ordered this firefly. The firefly during its activation has eaten the larva that was here that was wounded to generate these tokens. You can spend these tokens to make melee attacks. Yep. They're called fury tokens. And then
so that's
he's going to come in and start attacking this breacher.
Now 2 actions, 2 fury, and a free assault coming at you.
So the assault action is a move and an attack, and that's
dice
being donated by the Howler as one of his orders.
You highlight them, then you hit R a bunch of times if you want it to be more than just like a little pop.
Yeah, no worries.
EV6.
Okay, so 5 hits.
Okay,
5 is 3 damage and a marker token.
Well, we're armored, so it's only 2 damage. This is...
so another mechanic that the Volucrid have is that a lot of... can the Homer player volumes come up? Yeah, let's make that happen. A lot of these models will generate additional accuracy, or will gain additional accuracy the more they gang up on a single target. So the more that they have engaging one model, the more accurate they are. So that's the reason that the Howler is up here right now, because it's giving the Firefly an extra dice on its attacks.
10.
That's a 4 total again.
So 3 damage and another marker token.
Only 2 actually coming in because I'm armored.
Let me know how that sounds, chat. I just bumped their volume up.
I'm going to latch again.
So these fireflies can also
latch once per
round. That's a good question.
When they attack onto something,
have the opportunity.
They have these little hooked arms, and they can grab onto you.
That's
and
what
so
I
that
thought.
lets
I was
them.
Just like, I don't know how many. I think I can count them on my 2 hands. The amount of times
that lets them place themselves in base to base with anything that they hit with a melee attack, so they can kind of jump around the formation here. That also, if you have an ability like dodge that lets you move after you get attacked, you can latch to try to sort of block a model's ability to escape from you, and you can make it a little bit more difficult for them. Oh, I hate this trap too. Get this out of here.
Fury token to hit Winston again. Oh, sorry.
Alright.
I'm gonna use the Fury token to hit Rodriguez. My bad.
Sounds good.
I love these. They've named all their models.
9 to take 2 damage.
That's so good.
And I latch.
Ooh, the wrong guy. It's this guy.
And then I use my last Fury token to attack again.
Sounds good.
13.
So
minus
15 because I'm marked,
7.
right?
Oh yeah, 15. Thank you. Oh, the other one was up 2 then.
So that
You
should
should take
be...
you should take 3 damage from
Yeah,
the previous
uh,
attack.
Yeah, so up by 1. Obviously, I'm using armor every time.
Yep.
So,
So
what am
this time you're taking 5.
So
from the
4.
Firefly. Yep. How much HP does he have
15.
left?
7 left.
Thank you.
So the players are talking about their armor there. All of your models have, in response to attacks, they have defenses that they use, which are these icons right in the corner of their card. The little Kevlar vest here, that is armor that allows you to reduce the damage that you take by 1. This little shield is resist, which lets you have the attack rounding up. And then this last one here is called dodge. And dodge lets you move move 2 inches in a straight line, essentially, after you get hit with an attack. Generally, you'll only be able to pick one of those in response, so you have to make a decision between taking less damage from resist or moving a little bit. Dodge is a little bit different. You can use it for a lesser effect if you use it in conjunction with another defense, but that's the only defense that works like that. There are some effects like this little reticle sign that Bastien has on his sword here, which can block defenses. That's an attack modifier called precise, and it lets the attacker pick one of the defenses that you have that you can't use. And so, for example, if Bastien was to hit something with this resist effect, which is very powerful, they could precise the resist. You would be able to dodge, or you could still use your armor to reduce the damage by 1. So Bastien has a little bit of redundancy there. A lot of the homeworld field officers specifically have that redundancy built in.
You don't have to dodge that for a token, I don't think.
I believe you do.
Oh, never mind.
Trevor,
What's up?
you have to dodge the grenade, right?
The ABM from the breacher.
What do you mean? Like, oh, you can stand on it.
Oh, you can.
Is that the question? Yeah. You
Yeah,
can stand on
Okay,
it.
I didn't know that. That's fine. I am free assaulting onto Rodriguez.
All right.
Roll 4 dice.
Yep.
Uh,
So it's 15. So that's everything.
it's not
plus a
actually.
crit.
It's not actually 50. Oh yeah, it's 15 total because you
Yeah.
keep the 2.
Yeah. 'cause it's moving.
Yep. So I keep the 2. I precise.
Yeah, so in this instance, you'd normally pick 3 dice, so the volley card player would probably pick these 3. But this little purple token with the eyeball on it is left over from this firefly that's called marker, and that gives you +2 to hit that guy. So we're basically, you get to keep an extra 2 essentially, because your total is going to be increased by 2. So even though he's only going to pick dice totaling 13, he's going to get an additional 2 from the marker token.
And yeah, that marker token can go away.
It's base to base, right? Yeah, I'm
What
pretty
is?
sure. Yeah, creating the crawler is base to base. Cool. Then this guy is going to. Sorry, he used 1 action to walk, and then he used his free. So
Yeah, so we're going to be creating some additional crawlers here on the volley card player side. Those are created by an additional token called an infest token. We talked about before that a lot of these models have been upgraded with depositor sacks. That's a special volley crit host specific upgrade that lets you place infest tokens, basically little chest bursters that you put into the models that you attack. And when they die, you get to spawn a crawler at 1 hit point next to them, so that can activate that turn. You can, however, use them to generate additional attacks by eating them. So that does end up giving you a lot of a lot of extra resources typically. So that's usually a pretty big deal.
With my last order token, I'm activating Bob.
Oh, we both have a Bob.
We do both have a Bob. We also both have a Johan, but technically yours is called Lukas. Bob.
Oh no, Bob was my second support member before I changed him out for the second breacher.
Bob walks. Bob's going to assault for free.
Yeah, it looks like more than 2 inches.
Fair enough.
So that free assault is coming
Bob's
from
gonna
aggressor
block again.
pheromones from the Howler. That's an order the Howler can do, and it places this. It's called an angry hormones. That places this counter on the table, and as long as you assault within 2 inches of it, the assault is free. You don't have to spend a token on it. So this is one of the reasons that sort of engaging into a Volucrid army is usually not an amazing time, because you can get just mobbed by these little guys and eventually taken out. It's less bad if you have dodge, the dodge defense, because you're able to sort of escape from them a little bit. Homeworld in general doesn't have that. They're more difficult to kill in general. But that means that Volucrid can really...
There's no point in this being on the map anymore.
Yeah, that's all the breachers dead. Volucrid can really eventually just grind through their armor values. It doesn't really matter that much. I think
This
that's
is going to be a quick one.
probably most of the tokens off of the Howler. It looks like it just has 2 actions left in the bank. And we've turned both of those breachers into crawlers, so that's a big swing.
Eat this 1 HP crawler for 2 fury. And then my Howler is going to...
Yeah, and he's just going to spend the rest of his tokens to run back in. So the Howler effectively didn't make any attacks himself. He ran up, ordered all his little buddies to run around here and mob those 2 breachers, and then ran back behind the building with his activation.
3 order tokens.
And we are back to Lukas. Now, unfortunately, the position of this forest is going to be problematic for the homeworld, because Lukas doesn't have a lot of great shots. He can kill some of these crawlers probably, but he would much rather stand still and just shoot his gun without having to move, because for every move token that you spend moving, that's an action that you could have spent shooting, and so that is a big that's a trade-off you have to make.
We'll go ahead and move.
Some people ask if there's like an aim mechanic in this game, if you can like stand still and get a bonus to hit, and there isn't one, because if you're standing still, that just means you have more actions to spend shooting. So we sort of abstractly represented that effect. And it's the same for moving. If you don't shoot, you can just move faster because you spend more actions moving. But one of the most interesting things about the game is sort of the sequence of your actions and being able to move and shoot in any order. And multiple times, like you could shoot something, then move, then shoot again, potentially if you have 3 actions, and that's makes your individual movements very, very interesting and very impactful. And you can tell that each of the individual movements that these models make is relatively short. They only move 3 or 4 inches generally, but if you want to move the full distance, you can just spend all of your actions, hiking across the table.
Action is just going to be.
So we may be
storming. Or a storm, I guess.
Yeah, so storm is an action that lets you make a 3-inch move and then make a ranged attack.
There we go. Now he can center to center.
I'm going to try to draw some line of sight.
6 inches it is, so he is going to get his +1 accuracy. Which is very weird.
It's not center to center in this game, by the way. It's base to base.
Oh.
Sorry,
Okay.
I just clicked that you said that. So if you want to move over a little bit, you can.
It's probably fine wherever he is.
Okay. The players are just discussing the line of sight rules. In Breachstorm, your models, the actual model on the base is like sort of a nebulous abstract, and your line of sight is drawn from any line between your bases. So as long as a line between your bases doesn't cross over terrain or enemy models, then you can draw a clear line of sight and you can make that attack. That also means that you get to ignore your own models for line of sight, so you can they can sort of kneel and you can shoot over their shoulder.
Armor.
Yep. So and then,
I'm at 7.
then you get concentrate fire.
So we're going to be using the riflemen to put some concentrate fire tokens down on the Volucrid team. That's one of the ways that
Go ahead and
Homeworld can set up for sort of big damage. Is they have their infantry be ordered to run around and dump a lot of these tokens onto the enemy team, and then the field officer can go and benefit from all of those tokens and really just pick everyone right up. So it looks like we're going to be trying to do that with Lukas here, and she should be able to probably gun down 2 of these crawlers right now. We will have to go through one more attack, or one more activation from the second Howler here. The Howlers can push their crawlers to be relatively fast. They have a couple of different abilities that can speed them up. But I'm not sure that Bastien's in a very dangerous position right now. And the Homeworld player will get to activate first on the next turn. So Bastien will probably get to activate again, and will probably be able to clear out a lot of these infantry. You can see, though, that if the Homeworld player had been a little bit more conservative with their breachers, they could have really set up for a really hard-hitting turn next turn. But unfortunately, they were a little aggressive and got him going up.
Which is his mid, which is 4 damage and precise your armor.
2 HP.
And we'll shoot him again. That's 12 minus 6 is 6, which is still 4 damage and precise your armor.
Dice.
And he's gonna burn, I think, his last 2 asset point, or his last 2 orders for an asset point.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one of the ways that you can generate asset points during the game. Not only your models dying generate 2 asset points.
I haven't activated my sport gunner yet, but that's fine.
But we also, if an officer spends 2 order tokens during their activation, they can. It's called calling in support, but they can generate an additional asset point from that.
So Isabel's going. She gets 4 order tokens. 3 actions.
So one of the features of especially Homeworld officers is that they typically have a large action pool. A lot of them will start with 4 action tokens, whereas a lot of the other factions officers only come with 3. And that's because they have other ways of generating their own actions. So
1 on pheromones.
Yeah, so that pheromones ability will give them a free assault. So that's basically an extra free action, and they can eat their own models to generate free actions as well. So
action to walk.
They don't actually need to have that many action tokens in order to do what they want. When you make moves, you're also allowed to ignore your own models as well. You can move over them as long as you can completely clear them with your base. So that's why we're measuring right over this Firefly. You just have to, you do have to go around the corner of the terrain, though. And these Howlers do have a relatively fast movement. They are move 5, so they're able to speed across the table pretty quickly. I don't know if I mentioned before, but movement, your movement statistic is basically just tells you how many inches you're able to move for every action token you spend on moving.
Oh wait! Oh my God! What am I doing? Oh my lord!
I mean, I think you have some room to make some mistakes here.
Okay.
Does a round end when both players run out of action tokens? If essentially, the round ends when every model on the table has activated. If your infantry aren't ordered by an officer, they'll activate one at a time individually. so one of the reasons that having your officers is so important is that it allows you to activate a bunch of models
I'm
altogether.
going to-
So you can imagine if you brought a list with no officers in it, you would activate one model, then they could activate 5 or 6 and kill a bunch of your models that haven't activated yet. Then you would activate one more model. So it's a lot more efficient to have more models activate together. But all of your models have to activate, and the round's over when everyone has activated. There are some situations where you want to hold on to action tokens and you don't want to spend them. For example, the support gunner here, he's holding on to one of them right now. And that's because they have an ability to shoot when something moves in their line of sight. And that's what we're going to be measuring for right now. So I think we're going to be trying to trigger that with this Firefly so it doesn't hit the Howler instead. Yeah, so we're going to be activating a defensive fire.
He's going to have a marker effect. And his base accuracy is 3. And I believe I'm not sharpshooter, so I have to lose a die.
Do you get... you're in Into the Breach, though, right?
Oh!
Yep.
Yes, so I get that die back. Okay, so that's going to be 5.
Ooh,
14.
that was a roll.
So that's 5, no special effects other than the marker.
Cool.
Just gats that guy.
So-
Jeez.
Token, and then his second shot, so it's 5 damage, which I believe is probably armoring.
Yeah.
And then his second shot is going to rend. 4, 7, 9, 13 minus your 6 is going to be 3 damage plus a rend.
Cool. So 5 damage roll.
Yep.
So I armor and take 4. Yeah.
4.
That's just a glance, right?
Well, he was marked. I marked him first.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool. And with my last action, I am going to hit Bastien. Actually, will I hit
So
Bastien?
the
Yeah, I'll hit Bastien.
support gunners
Maybe
actually,
so.
they have a couple of interesting abilities that kind of stack on top of each other. That defensive fire is one of them. They can spend an action token when something ends a move within their range and line of sight. They can spend an action token to shoot them. Their weapon has a ability called rapid fire, which lets it fire a second time after it's already shot. So you could potentially be shooting the same thing twice or 2 different things. Then, every time they shoot, they can choose the ammunition in their gun. So they have a bunch of different effects they can do. And as you can see, they can marker, which will give +2 to hit that model, or they can rend, which gives +2 to damage against it. And those things stacking on top of each other can really rip some stuff apart. So those support gunners, if they're able to get like all 6 shots out of something, because they can get 3 actions, can really kill. They can really just dump a lot of damage onto something. Their last effect is actually really cool. They can, and it's probably the one that the Volucrit is actually most afraid of right now, and why I think he was looking to get that defensive fire triggered by the Firefly rather than this Howler that's coming in, is called Assault, or excuse me, it's called Suppress. It looks like we're going to be doing an assault here, and suppression stops the target from moving. You can't move as long as you have suppression tokens. You can spend action tokens to get rid of suppression tokens, but until they're gone. And they'll go away at the end of your activation, so they don't affect you multiple turns. But until they're gone, you aren't able to move any farther that turn. So that's actually can be a really big deal, especially for these little assault, characters that want to be running right up the table, and usually take a couple separate move actions to do so. Like it'll do a move, and then it'll do a move, and then it'll do assault. If any one of them triggers a suppression shot and it hits you, you're stuck right there. You're gone to ground right in the middle of the battlefield, and something's going to come around and kill you pretty quickly.
Move.
So unfortunately, it looks like we just ran this this crawler right up to base with Bastien. That's going to stop Bastien from being able to dodge. He's not going to be able to escape with a dodge. And this last crawler is going to be getting +2 accuracy from these other 2 Volgox units right next to him. And they may be able to kind of cut him down. Although I don't believe that Bastien's wounded, so he is a hardy guy. He's got a lot of hit points.
Don't do this to me, game. I'm not within 2. Damn.
Nope.
Oof. That's
Wish I
awkward.
could say I planned that, but I very much did not plan that.
That's okay. I'm going to eat Jessica.
Most units in the game can just eat it, eating the firefly there. Most units in the game can attack at 1 inch. Your general engagement range is 1 inch. But some melee weapons have a range longer than 1 inch. So while you can't engage people at any longer and stop them from shooting, you can just reach out and hit them. And the Howler is one of those. It's got these big, long talons. And so it's able to reach over the other Volucrid units and attack.
My base accuracy.
Probably
4.
a 3. 4? Oh my god. This is what?
Get that 6 dice in
6
there.
dice?
So 4 base accuracy on this thing, rolling additional 2 because there's
So
2 other models in
15
melee.
It looks like. Minus my 7 is 8.
And we're going to be picking these 6, this 6, and this 3 for the results.
5 damage.
And a result of
Any special effects?
8 hits for
yeah,
5
positive
on the
side.
Howler's results chart there.
Of course.
And
so
hits
I
him for an
resist, so it
infest
goes down
token as
to
well.
3 damage, and I can still dodge 1 inch if I want to, but I can't go anywhere.
Yep. Then I'm gonna spend my last fury token. Again. Crit. 9 damage. Resist, precisely resist.
So 8
Or
damage.
sorry, I said 9 damage, didn't I? I didn't mean to say that. 6
Yeah, I was going to
damage.
say 9 damage is a lot.
6 damage, precisely resist.
Yeah.
5 damage.
A lot of the
Deal.
Volgox units have really powerful critical hits on their damage profiles here. You can see, like, even a little crawler hits for 6 with a precise modifier. And so if you're able, that's very difficult as well because you need a 9 on the dice after your opponent's evade value.
Gonna use that action.
And their base accuracy is only 2, so they actually don't even roll 3 dice to start with. So, but if you can stack enough Volgox units around them to give additional hits, additional accuracy, and you're able to stack up to that, to getting that level, that hit level pretty reliably, these guys can absolutely tear apart anything in the game. But you need usually 3 or 4 models sort of all ganging up on somebody to kill them.
Evasion 6. Oh, evasion 7. What?
Never mind, then I just straight up miss. Second shot will go and try to just rend you. Because if it hits, I want to do the extra damage. 11 minus your 7 is 4, which I'm on the right card. Oh wait, I can just look at this. There we go. 1 damage and rended, so total of 1 damage.
Okay. I'm not even gonna mark it.
Yeah, yeah. It's the last thing I'm doing this turn.
Yeah, and I'm gonna resilient heal it. So
I tried.
you did. So, cool. My last people, they get one measly action. Go larva, go. Get these-
Well, hey, at least. Oh no, I think you're gonna get your free assault into the territory.
I certainly hope so. Yes, I do.
Dang. Just with the one guy, how it looks like. Which is all you needed, but still.
Yeah.
Did anybody get over to interact with the breakthrough zone?
No, I was, I into the breach prevented me from doing it. I
Oh.
should just, I thought I was going to be able to get, the bonus accuracy against a bunch of his dudes in the zone, and then I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, I think this actually would have been pretty good if you had those 2 victory points, right? Like,
yeah, no, yeah, this would be a really solid position if I
Yeah.
had that action for that instead of random +1 accuracy a couple of times later in the turn.
yeah.
It was a good plan with one mess up.
Right.
Like, all in all, this does work. I just messed it up. So if anyone is paying attention to that, blame the pilot, not the.
All right.
Yeah. So we're going into round 2 here.
you activated the last field officer, so, or sorry, I've activated the
You
last
did,
field
so
officer.
I get my first.
So you get to
Yes.
go first. It was gonna be the same outcome. You
Yeah.
get to go.
You just said it wrong.
Yeah.
Bastien goes first because.
Yeah, so the players just talking about there, the way order of activation is determined in the game. Obviously, the attacking player gets the first activation on the first round automatically. The attacking objectives, as we can see, are usually a little bit more difficult, so that gives them a little bit of a leg up, being able to go first. But at the end of each round, you check to see who has activated the last officer, and whoever did, the other person gets to activate first on the next round. So if, in this case, both players have the same number of field officers, the host has the 2 Howlers, and the homeworld has the 2 officers here. So they're going to maintain sort of the same order of activation because they're both going to be activating in the same way, essentially. But if field officers start dying, or you've brought different numbers of field officers, that can actually start changing. And one way that it can is if all of your officers are dead, your opponent is always the one to have activated the last field officer. And that often gives you the ability to activate infantry back to back. So an infantry can go last at the end of the round. And then your opponent has activated the last officer, so you get to go again. So you get to activate that infantry again. Infantry are always less effective when there's no officers around. But it can give you a little bit of a leg up if you're trying to fight back after losing all of your officers.
To mark you. It's 15 minus 7 is 8, which is 3 damage and a marker token.
That was a really good roll right there.
Okay. Then he's going to take another shot at Isabel. This time, the shot is going to be intending to rend Isabel. That's 5, 6, 7. So it's 1 damage plus a rend token.
Okay.
So 3 damage.
Isabel
I
getting
think I
lit
missed the
up
damage.
right
I'm
here.
so sorry, when you put the marker on. How much damage did you do?
I think we're seeing
was
sort of how powerful a support gunner can be when it just gets to
that was
light
actually
something
middle
right
shot,
up.
So that was 3 damage base.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And then the next shot is actually going to go over onto Simon.
The one more. Sorry, I'm just catching up. And then the Ren token
Was 1 base
did...
plus the 2 from the Rend.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Support gunners do crazy things.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Trevor, so it does 1 base, then 3 for the Rend, but then I resist and take 1. Or sorry, resilient and then resist. I'm not going to resilient, so I take 2.
Yeah, in that situation, the resilient and the resist wouldn't stack because the resist wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So then we're going to try to suppress Simon with the second shot from the rapid fire. 6. So it's a total of 5 after your thing. So that's 3 damage with a suppression token.
Just an endless deluge of fire being poured into this howler.
And then I think we're just going to keep shooting. We're going to shoot Sarah and try.
So I think we've set up that Bastien was going to be able to melee this this howler down pretty well.
Right. That is going to be 3 damage plus a suppress.
I'm going to leave you with the players' mics quickly, chat. I'm
And
going
we're
to
go
pop
ahead and
off
put our
of
last
the
shot into
stream
Isabel.
for a sec, but I'll just leave it here, and you can hear them talk.
On you already, so it doesn't matter.
Sure. I mean, suppression still matters.
An extra suppression token? Does that work?
Yeah, you can stack them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put an extra suppression.
Yeah, it takes an action to get rid of them. So the more suppression tokens you have on them, the more actions it takes to get to take them off.
Ah, okay.
Action or order.
Yes.
So that's 16. So that's a crit for 5 damage plus rend is 7 damage with no other effects.
What does it say 2? I'm so sorry. So I took 1 damage and then 1 damage, and then I took 2 damage plus the rend, and then you just crit. So I was at
Yes.
10, and then you just crit for
5 plus rend.
6, 5 plus rend, so 7 total. So I'm going to take 3 because I'm going to tap my resilient. So brings it down
Sounds
to
good.
5, and then I resist, take 3. So I'm at 7 HP.
Sounds good.
I'm saying that all aloud just in case Trevor needs to correct me. But I think that's correct.
All right. Then Bastien is going to go ahead and he is going to shoot Isabel. He has Gunslinger, so he doesn't lose his accuracy. So he can legally do that, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Right. All of these guys also get a Concentrate Fire token on top of the one that I just put on him from Trace Lock.
Yep. I can do that while you're rolling.
Okay. I already put the extra one on Isabel.
Okay. Yep. The other people have them as well.
5, 6.
Big stack of tokens.
Okay, so that's definitely a crit on account of I rolled a 6/6/5 plus marker. So that is a 6 damage knockback plus rend.
Okay, so 8 damage resisted to 4 plus knockback.
Yep. We'll tap Gunslinger and pull ourselves in to try to finish off Isabel here.
Mm-hmm.
Concentrate Fire only works on ranged attacks? Question mark.
Correct.
Okay. In which case, we're just gonna go ahead and keep shooting ya. So that's the next action. Yeah, and that's another crit plus rend.
Cool. And Isabel is dead. And I get a asset point. I get 2 asset points. Actually, I think. Yep. Yeah, vital asset. I get 2 when they're destroyed.
So he still has an action token on him. You can go ahead and get rid of that massive pile of tokens. And then we're going to go ahead and activate our rifleman. He's going to spend an action to set his gun to rapid fire. And then he's going to shoot at Sarah first. Sarah is within 6 inches of Bastien and has a concentrate fire, so I'm rolling 5 dice. Oof. 11 minus 6 is 5 for a base damage of 4 damage, no specials.
Okay. I take 3. That's on Simon.
That was on Sarah. And then
Still take 3, but going down to 5 HP on Sarah.
Next shot on Sarah, because it's a rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
That is 5 damage, precise your armor.
Okay, Sarah dies.
All right. Then he changes his target over to Simon. I don't know why I suppressed all of these guys. Yeah, no, we're going to shoot Russell. That makes more sense. Russell is within 6. Cool. We do lose one of those because he's not.
Okay, Chad, I'm back. Hope everyone's enjoying the game.
Okay,
Ooh, it looks like the Howler actually went down.
5,
I mean, that's not that
10,
surprising
12,
with the
so
amount of
that's
damage it
gonna
took.
be, 4 damage, no specials.
Okay.
And second attack, also on Russell, is yikes. 8, 10, 2 damage, no specials.
Cool.
And then Bastien is going to go ahead and take his last action, which is going to be storming into here.
Ooh, this is aggressive from Bastien.
He's got an order token he can't do anything with, but that's
But
fine.
I think
and he's going to shoot.
Homeworld may be angling for a table here.
Russell got
There are
constant
two.
Fire after the rifleman, so I get 5 dice.
There are 2 victory conditions in the game. You can either win via the your mission objective, in which case your mission will give you parameters that you need to complete. When you do, you score X number of VP, and you can complete one of the parameters every turn. And the goal is to get 3 victory points and have more than your opponent at the end of any round. If your opponent ever has no models on the table before that happens, you immediately win the game. So there can be situations in which your opponent has enough victory points to win, but the round hasn't ended yet. And if you kill all their stuff, then you'll win instantaneously. So there is a little bit of a comeback there, and not being able to score looks like this turn or last turn or this turn means that the homeworld is going to be looking to kill all of these Volocrid models. Now, obviously, this is pretty easy to counter. You could just run away with one of the officers, but that will give the opportunity for the remaining homeworld models to push into their objective zone and actually win the game that way. But we'll see how much damage the host is going to be able to pull out here. It does look like they have a lot of crawlers still left on the table, so Bastien was certainly going to go down this turn, I imagine. And losing a Howler before it activated is actually a little bit not as bad for the host as you would think, because this is one of the situations where you actually change the order of activation in the game. Because that Howler hadn't activated yet, Lukas is going to activate after this Howler goes, which means that the defending player, the Volocrid player, is going to activate first on the subsequent turn, because the last officer to activate will have been the homeworld one. So this guy will actually get to activate one activation sooner next round. So even if we take a lot of casualties here, there is still an opportunity for the host to be able to fight back. This is actually a really exciting game it's turning into, BChat. It's going to be very attrition-oriented, which is always interesting. One player is angling for that mission, the objective victory, and it looks like the other player is going to be just looking to kill everyone.
All right, Hunter activates. That concentrated fire token goes away. That was last round.
Oh yeah, that was last round. Yep.
Okay. Hello, Bastien. You look delicious.
Yeah, Bastien's definitely not surviving the round. Honestly, I thought it was a miracle he survived last round, but you spent all that time on the preachers.
Yeah, I still think that was correct.
Oh, probably was, because otherwise this would have blown up.
Yeah. We're gonna put pheromones, aggressive pheromones here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that says objective marker. Let's change that to angry hormones. Okay, I'm gonna activate Claire. Claire is going to. I'm within 2 inches. Motherfucker. Aha! Right?
Doesn't look like
Nope.
it to me.
No. 2.1. Sad day for our buggy boys.
Oh no, you have to do your movement first. What a disaster.
I'm just gonna move towards Bastien.
So the reason that we were lamenting there is activating 2 inches far, more than 2 inches away from this crawler. This crawler has 1 hit point left because it was created from an infestation token last turn. Means that this Firefly would not be able to consume it before it moves. So in order to to consume it, it would have to move back to the thing and then eat it, to the crawler, and then eat it, and then move back. And that would cost a whole bunch of action tokens. It's definitely not worth it.
Sorry, for some reason I thought you were having the crawler eat the firefly, not the reverse.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. Firefly is more important. That's my free assault.
Yep.
To Bastien. EV7, 2 dice.
Oh.
I'm gonna latch.
Okay. I think I only take like 1 total damage from that.
Yes. And you are markered.
Yep.
So you can.
Now it's the rest of this that that kills me.
You can dodge if you'd like.
Oh, I can dodge if I would like. 1 inch.
But it's in a straight line, so.
Yeah, and I don't like many of the directions that are available here.
You can dodge towards me. You can't go there.
Yeah, cannot go that way. Not reasonably.
No.
Yeah, Bastien will accept his fate like a man.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna attack you again. EV5 now. 2 up. I don't think does anything different. It does not. So you take 3 damage. It was actually 3 damage last time.
Okay, so he's up to that, which means he's got 4 health.
3
left.
damage twice. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, the armor or resist doesn't matter which one I do at that point.
I'm gonna latch again. Are you gonna dodge?
Actually, in that case, moving an inch over here kind of does matter.
Okay. I'm gonna attack again. 10 minus 7. So 3 more damage. Latch.
Yep. He's got 2 health left, and he's not dodging again.
Okay, cool. I'm going to activate Michael, who's going to eat the basic crawler.
That crawler is going to get eaten by somebody. We worked it out. So it looks like we're angling to pin Bastien in. I'm interested why we didn't go ahead with this larva. One of the things that the larva can do is they can just move, and they have an action called Bite, which will give them a Fury token if they hit somebody with it. But it just picks an enemy within an inch and deals a damage to them. It's not an attack, so you can't trigger your defenses off of it.
Free assault.
And what that makes good at these larvae good at is blocking off areas while still doing damage.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Actually, it doesn't matter. I didn't realize Bastien was so low. Never mind.
Do I get assets, or do only you get assets here? One of your units is destroyed by... Nope, okay.
Yeah, create the basic crawler, order tokens away. I still have an action and 2 fury. So I'm going
Move,
to
attack.
Yep, attack 1. I only have 2. Evasion 6, right?
Yep.
Misses.
Attack 2. Hits, but not precise, right?
Correct, just 3 damage.
Alright, so we armor for that to be 2 damage.
He is done. I'm going to activate Johan. He's going to do a very similar thing. Sorry. Struggling with the interface.
Yeah, no worries.
He's going to eat the larva.
Oh, looks like we had plans for that larva all along. We're just going to consume them.
Oh, yeah, Michael heals. He heals 2 HP. Sorry, he was... Or assault for free. So wait, sorry, that was a move, assault, move.
Did Michael eat a larva or a crawler?
A larva.
A crawler.
Oh, Michael? Yeah,
Michael ate a crawler, which is why he only killed 2.
Well, they don't. If it's not a larva, it doesn't heal you at all.
Oh, it doesn't?
It is not
no,
nutritious.
It's just, yeah. That's why. That's one of the other reasons for nutrient reserve sacks.
Gotcha.
That literally gives you the entire larva's rule.
Gotcha. My bad.
Oh, no worries.
Depositor sacks. Sorry. All right. Johan moved. Assault moved. And now it's going to attack.
Yep.
With a Fury token. In case that matters. I think what I confused it was the officer versus infantry rule.
Yeah, because
they
heal.
Yeah.
They heal more when on an infantry. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So 5 up does 4 damage in precise your armor.
Okay.
Attack again. 10 does 3 damage.
So it does 2 after armor.
Oh, what's his HP at?
He has a base HP of 13, so he's at 5.
Okay. Johan's gonna depositor sack.
Yep.
The rifleman. Yeah, I might as well attack one more time.
Oof.
11, so 4 damage. Precise your armor. So he has 1.
Yep.
Unfortunate.
Almost got him. Could potentially get the Howler there if we just blitzed a bunch of actions running, but I don't know if we want to quite do that. Although I think the only model left to activate on the homeworld side of the table is Johan, Lukas. Ooh. Do we just see Lukas just blitz into the zone here and try to go for a cheeky 2-pointer? We may be at the stage where that's probably too late to be an effective game plan for the homeworld. A lot of these crawlers are pretty heavily wounded. But unfortunately, Lukas is going to activate, and then this Howler is going to activate again.
That's 2 moves.
For the reason I talked about earlier. So
that's 3 moves.
I don't know if Lukas has quite the actions to deal the damage he needs to sort of push him back into a winning position.
Attack him with my Fury, but I'm going to assault first.
Okay.
He gets 6 dice.
Sure does. Yeah, that's gonna be
Murderous
dead,
thing.
and you get your crawler.
Boom.
Cool. And then I'm going to eat the crawler.
Sounds good.
Or Fury. my turn's over.
Sounds good. All right. The only thing I can do with my orders is get an asset, so we're going to do that.
Unfortunately, there's so many infantry on the table for the Confederacy right now. They don't really have, or for the host right now, that the Homeworld Confederacy doesn't have a lot of options. If they go ahead and kill the Howler, because the mission doesn't require that the host interact with the objective, they just need to be able to hold it with more models than the attacker has. They can just sort of wall it off with their infantry and kind of sort of cascade into a win there.
Cool.
So it looks like we're just gonna
Simon gets
just
rid
end
of
up
his...
running Lucas into the zone to score it.
And that's literally
But unfortunately,
it.
I
That's the only
think
full action.
That is literally all he can do.
Okay.
And then I guess...
But
Yep,
that's gonna
go
mean
ahead and
that
finish the job.
that Hunter can probably come in and kill the rest of these guys. Hunter the Howler.
One order. I'm gonna move the actions over there.
So overall, I think that
Sometimes the tokens get thrown crazy.
Yeah. The game has like a momentum simulator, so if you
okay.
release your click like mid.
so the Homeworld did end up putting up a pretty good fight here. They were able to kill off about half of this Volucrid team, which I think was pretty impressive given how much they lost in that first exchange. If they had been able to score this zone on the top of turn 1, I do think that this is actually a really interesting game. And giving up those 2 breachers for 2 victory points, I mean, that's 2/3 of the way to winning the game. And if you and it really forces the host player to change their game plan to defending this rather than attacking into this zone. So it could have been, I think the players are just talking about it right now, but it could have been much closer if we had been able to see that 2 victory points scored on the top of 1 there for the Homeworld. But still, in a relatively close game, I hear. I have to imagine Lucas is about to get nommed on by a bunch of these Volucrid models, but we should be at 2 victory points for the red player because their zone was uncontested at the end of round 2. And so, assuming that no one is able to interact with the zone, which I think is pretty likely, they will score this last objective at the end of the at the end of this round and win on 3 victory points to 2. So actually ended up being a pretty interesting game. This is a hard matchup, I think, just for this style of Homeworld list. To try to fight into a Volucrid list like this is really tough. One thing that you can basically try to do in the Homeworld matchup versus host is slowly grind them down. They have to move so far across the table to get their units to break through sort of a defensive formation that a lot of times they can't really do it very optimally, and you can kind of just shave off a couple crawlers each activation, and then when it comes down to their field officers, like typically your field officers will win that fight on a straight up fight. But that requires you to hold off scoring your mission objective for a couple turns, which is a little dangerous. And either just assuming you're not going to score it and just kind of throwing it away and going for an attrition victory, or holding it for later in the game. You know, there's probably a turn after you've killed a lot of the little guys and they've started to kill each other, which they'll usually do when they start consuming. You can wait, like sort of bait your infantry back a turn and then run them into the zone to stop the host player from scoring for 1 round. So that delays their victory for a turn, and that gives you an opportunity to run over and grab this zone on the following turn. So there's a lot of counterplay to the host game plan. It is very inflexible because it does require its field officers to make its infantry efficient and also to interact with scenario elements. So if you lose those, it can go really south really quickly for the buggy boys.
All right. Hunter's going to move. Doesn't actually have 4 actions.
Didn't he also already move once?
He did. Yes. Thank you. Assault.
Yep. Ooh.
Yeah, this should be curtains for Lukas right here. Down to 6 hit points.
6, 6, 3, 5, 17.
So
minus
9.
6 in precise list.
Okay, so 5. He's got 3 health left.
Cool. He's gonna spend a fury. Dead.
Yeah, that looks like a very deadly list.
So that's going to leave just the support gunner left
Okay,
for the
Power.
homeworld here. Yeah. Facing down the entirety of this Volocrit army. I think that's going to be
I don't think you're activating either of those crawlers with this turn, though.
I have one more action.
Aha! You spent the fury to do your attack.
I did. I should have spent a fury to do both attacks. I was silly and didn't forgot that he had fury because it was up on the board.
Oh, you what? The first one was a free assault. It was even cheaper.
True. Activate this guy. We're gonna activate Johan.
Yeah, Johan. Okay. We're gonna reaction fire.
Yep. I have cover.
We're gonna suppress.
So minus 1 die.
Nice.
I have hard cover.
Yep. So that's a miss.
Yeah, maybe
second
could have
shot is
held
also gonna suppress.
defensive fire until
It's only
this guy
it's
had
only 2 days, right? Or you activate
run out of
support?
cover.
Well, it's 3 and then I drop the highest.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Hard cover, not soft cover. You're right.
Because this
I
guy
missed
would
the
need
effects
another
anyway,
4-inch
so go ahead
move,
and
which
do
would
it.
leave him in the open,
Right.
and the defensive
That was
fire
the
could hit him
first.
and suppress him there. So that's a
Did I
situation.
attack you? No. Right?
That doesn't look like it. Unless you have a 2-inch reach.
No, I don't.
Yeah, it's 1.5.
Yeah. All right. That's fine. Your go.
Alright, he gets his thing.
Yeah, so now we're activating an infantry with no
shoots
field officer around. He's
at-
only to get 1 action.
Probably actually, yeah, he's gonna shoot
Yeah,
at.
try to suppress that
here.
guy, but that's gonna. That'll be that.
He's gonna try to suppress him.
Me.
So that's an
Shuts him
11
down.
minus 6. Or 11 minus 6 is 5, so it will hit for 3 damage with just the suppress effect.
Yep. Oh, sorry,
and
wrong one.
He's gonna shoot to Ren for his second shot. But he misses.
Mm. Cool.
And that's everything he's doing.
Boop. Alright, 3 points each. I activated the last. No, you activated the last field officer.
You actually.
No, wait, I did. I did.
You gave yourself an asset point there instead of a victory point.
Oh, oops. Thank you. Oh, I just win, right?
Yeah, I think you just win.
Yeah. Okay, my bad. I thought it was gonna be 3-3. Okay. Well,
I think no. It should be 2. It should be 2-2 right now though, because this is the second round.
yeah. Sorry. That's what I thought. I was like, I think we're tied.
Yeah, we should be tied.
We should be tied. Yeah. I should have. Oh, I have 2. That's why I'm confused because I have 2 things because my officer died on the point.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You get to go again.
Cool.
Marker
This dude
clears.
gets 2 dice.
Yep.
And gets to try to not die here. God. Okay. I mean, there's not a lot of game left here.
No,
but
I mean,
we'll-
I think I would call it.
Yeah, I would call it
if you want to roll it, I will. But if you, yeah,
Yeah, we can call
because
this one.
you can't kill Michael and stop
I-
my officer
yeah.
from getting into the zone.
Yeah, and there's no way I'm killing all of those guys and getting there with
Yeah.
2 actions.
So, good game.
Good game.
Shake hands. Ta-da-da.
Yeah, definitely. Our homeworld heroes here they made a fight of it at the end, but unfortunately, I think they needed that turn one score on the breakthrough zone would have been big.
Yeah, it would have been super different. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that.
I don't know that the outcome would have been different, but it would have been a lot more of a game.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, suddenly like the whole like Volucrid team has to move in and get into here, right, to stop the turn two score, because then you just
Yeah.
win if you score it 2 times in a row.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It works even better against like the Conclave.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of times
who have 3 guys like here, here, and here, and are like, how the hell am I getting over there?
I definitely have lost games because I like didn't put any terrain next to the zone, and I just was like, oh, I can't afford to contest this. And some idiot pack warrior is like, oh, scored on turn 1, scored on turn 2, GG. And Atreus is like standing like 5 feet away, like I'm an idiot. But yeah, if they're not playing Atreus, like it's impossible to contest that zone. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun to watch though. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun to play. I'm good for today, but that was a good game, man.
Yeah, same.
Appreciate it. Thanks for hosting and being available for quick questions. I think depositor sacks are good.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, first time playing with them. Seems good.
They either eat an attack from the enemy or give you 2 fury, or potentially.
All right, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and shut off the stream now. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope this was an informative game. We were able to go over some of the base mechanics of Breachstorm, and talk about a little bit about the different dynamics between the missions and the factions. Thanks everybody who stuck around in the chat to watch. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more Breachstorm on the stream in the near future. Big thanks to the players for agreeing to jump on stream and play. We typically play Breachstorm on Sundays. I'm usually streaming once or twice a week. And it's a good time. So come on over breachstorm.com. We should say if you're looking for the link is in the description. But if you're looking for more information, there's a link to the Discord community over there. There's also all of the rules are available for free. You can download standees of the miniatures, and you can buy the real miniatures there as well if you want to play. So yeah, thanks again everybody for watching. We're gonna go ahead and end the stream here. But hope everyone enjoyed. Have a good one. And stay tuned for some more. We'll get some more 40K videos coming this week. I've started to do some sort of data sheet analysis, like the ATV video I just put up today. So anybody who's interested in those, please let me know. I really want to see sort of the reception that they get, because it is something that I'm willing to do like on a very semi-regular basis going into the future if they do get a pretty reasonable amount of views. So thanks everybody again. Take it easy and have a good one. Keep it classy, folks.